outside of the Senate steps at the U.S. Capitol with Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine. We're going to talk about the FBI and your goal to land the future headquarters of FBI in Springfield. A lot of arguments being made between you all and Maryland. One specifically that I'd like to talk about here is first in terms of cost. Maryland alleges that it's somehow going to cost an extra $1 billion to build out the site in Springfield. Can you address that?
There were some cost estimates a long time ago that included a cost of relocating a tenant from the Springfield site somewhere else. That work's already been done, so that's no longer a cost. So if you look at the current costs, we think our site compares very favorably because it's owned by the government. At least one of the Maryland sites is privately owned. So you save all the land acquisition costs, and we think other aspects of the site create a developable cost that is very competitive.
Is it a negative that that site would potentially take longer to develop, given that there are current federal structures on the property that would have to be demolished?
I don't think it's going to take longer because, say, there is a relocation, but you got to do all the site planning and permitting. You're going to have to do that in Maryland as well. Maryland has to purchase the site, at least one of their sites, so it's not currently purchased. We don't think timing ultimately is a differentiator.
Meeting the mission of the FBI is obviously the largest weighted criteria, 35%. One piece of that is proximity to Quantico. No one's been able to tell us how many people move back and forth between Hoover and Quantico, so we don't know about that. But I guess, is it fair, is it wise for the taxpayers that the cost portion is only considered 10%, where that portion has considerable more weight?
Well, the GSA came up with the criteria, right? So the GSA and the FBI. Marylanders didn't write it. Virginians didn't write it. At the end of last year, Marylanders tried to change the criteria, and we were able to stop Congress changing the criteria and instead saying agencies meet with Maryland, meet with Virginia. That's fair. There is data that and I just can't pull it off the top of my head. There's data about the normal movement in a month. How many trips back and forth between FBI HQ and Quantico, and it's significant. It's significant. So obviously, moving from downtown to this Springfield site is much closer, but it's also right on the VRE. You know, there's VRE and metro and bus connectors between these sites, so it would not only help on timing and quality of life, it's also a good thing in terms of environment and being able to move people easier.
Maryland is also making a big issue out of the equity component of this, saying, Angela Alsobrooks, the county executive in Prince George's, said yesterday, $450 some odd billion of federal projects has gone to Fairfax, where an only fraction of that amount has gone to Prince George's County. Can you see their point, and how do you counter that point?
So first, you notice the difference between the Virginians today and the Marylanders yesterday. We said nothing negative about Maryland. We love Maryland. We work with them all the time.
You're not trying to turn this into a street fight.
No, and I don't need to say anything negative about their proposal. I'm selling the positives of the Virginia proposal, including equity. The Washington Post did an analysis. Okay, how much federal office and real estate is there in Prince George versus Fairfax? There's more in Prince George. On the equity side, 55% of the households in this Springfield area, the language spoken at home is not English. It is heavily an immigrant community, African American, Latino, Asian American, Middle East, a lot of African diaspora recently. The language is spoken, number one language, English, number two, Spanish, number three, Amharic. So this is a very, very diverse community. It's the most economically stressed part of Fairfax County along the Route 1 corridor. So we embrace the fact that the GSA and FBI have included equity as a component to this, first time ever in a federal building location, and we embrace it, and we feel like Springfield really meets that standard.
And finally, Senator, is there any concern about this process getting drawn out even further? $375 million has already been appropriated to go to one of those sites before the end of the fiscal year. Will this decision happen before September 30th?
Let me tell you what GSA told us. So the GSA was directed in the omnibus that year to do this delegation meeting today. And we asked at the end, okay, now timing, please. And they fairly said, we heard a lot from Maryland yesterday. We heard a lot from Virginia today. We have to absorb it, but then we'll absorb it and we'll come back and tell you what we think the timing will be. I do feel like, and I think they do too, we're getting near the end of this. We're getting near decision time. We all agree it's taken too long. That's one thing. Maryland and Virginia and the FBI and we all agree it's taken too long. We think we made our best case today with a great crew. We feel really good about our proposal and hope to hear something soon about GSA about what remains to do before the decision is made.
Senator Tim Kaine, thank you so much.
Absolutely.